Whew. I was hoping I'd never have to do this, but today is the day that we need to tear the GR86 engine apart. Last week, was it last week? No, it wasn't last week. The week before last week, we pulled the engine out of the car, and now it's time to look to see the extent of the damage and hopefully get everything swapped over to the new short block. So what we need to do is get this intake manifold off, and then we're gonna take the rest of the harnesses and hoses and get that out of the way, and then we can move on to the timing cover, and that'll eventually allow us to take the heads off, inspect to see if there's any damage to the valves, and then we'll take a look at the short block. Now, just taking a look inside the intake manifold here, looks spotless, so doesn't look like we had a catastrophic valve failure. Otherwise, we'd probably see little bits of metal in there. So I'm hopeful that the heads are okay and that we can just transfer everything over, but fingers crossed. I have a lot of work to do. I've already got the pulleys removed. I had to hit the crankshaft pulley with a very large 1/2-inch impact to break that loose, but all those are out of the way. So now, to get the intake manifold off, we have to take these covers off that I think are just held in with some 10mm bolts. And then there's just a couple more bolts that are holding the intake manifold in. We'll be able to pull that off, and then we'll have a bunch of harnesses and hoses to deal with. Wherever I can, I'm gonna put the bolts or nuts back so I don't lose them. Otherwise, I will use a plastic bag and label it so I know where everything goes. Intake manifold is off. It's just 6 12mm bolts, 3 on each side. You can see some of the valves now. We also have this rat's nest of harnesses and hoses, as well as the foam that helps to cut down on any engine noise. Once this is all out of the way, we can finally actually break down the engine. As I was gonna disconnect these coil packs, I noticed something rather odd. If you take a look at these two clips, they're flipped. And if you look closely, the plastic connector is marred up a little bit right there and a little bit up here, as well as on this one. And this one's actually loose enough where I can just pull it off with my finger like that. And I've never messed with these, so the dealer must have done something to these when they had the car. I'm confused why they took these off. The other side was perfectly fine, so just confusing. I'm not sure what's going on there. Well, we've had our first fatality. As I was removing the harness from the engine, one of these clip trees broke and it's stuck in there. Not a big deal since we're replacing the short block, but it was bound to happen. Even though I was using the right tool, they really aren't meant to come back out once they're pressed in. Hey, we're making progress. I think once I remove this 12mm bolt, I should be able to pull all of these harnesses out of here. This is gonna be so much fun to put back. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but the RTV that's stuck in the bolt holes on some of these is actually still wet. Look at that. With all the bolts removed that are holding the timing cover in place, now we're gonna take a crowbar and carefully start prying around the cover to break it loose. There's multiple areas where you can stick a crowbar into and pry around. This is kind of tedious and annoying to do, but you gotta work your way around so you can break that sealant loose. All right, we're almost there. Hey, look at that. Cover is off. That was about as fun as I thought it was gonna be. It took a lot of persuading and prying, but eventually we were able to break that seal. If you take a look at the bead all around the timing cover, that looks to be mostly intact, but just down here you can see a small strand of RTV that's just hanging here and a little blob right there as well. This is the type of stuff that can fall off and get stuck inside the pickup tube. I'm sure we'll find more of that once we tear into this a little bit more. Also right here, if you see that, there's a huge piece of metal right there. Fun stuff. But let's get these timing chains off and then we can work on the heads. Cam covers are off, so the carrier is next, and then we have access to the head. There is a specific pattern you want to loosen these bolts. It's basically a star pattern, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You want to loosen them a little bit at a time, and then once they're all out, we're gonna have to break the sealant loose. And like I said, we'll have access to the head. That gives us access to the 6 head studs, which we need to loosen in a star pattern again. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've already loosened all those. So everything should be free and we should be able to pull the head off of the block. Hey, those don't look too bad. We got the heads removed. So far, everything is looking good. So we'll get those sent out to get cleaned, make sure all the metal and the oil gets cleaned out before we install it onto the new short block. I know a lot of you guys were probably hoping to see me crack this open in today's video, but I'm gonna call it a day. We will cover this in another video. If you guys have been enjoying the content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let me know if you want to see something specific, whether it's on this car or if it needs to be on a running car. We can also use my GR86 if you want to follow along on my build. Check out my personal channel. But that is going to do it for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.